1 to 4 family contract, paragraph 21, notices. Let's read what this says because we'll talk about this, right? All notices from one party to the other must be made in writing and are effective when mailed to and delivered at or transmitted by fax or electronic transmissions as follows. So that's saying that all of these notices from one party to another are effective when they are put in the mail, hand delivered, or emailed, or faxed, or other electronic transmission. Okay. And here's the ways that that can be done. Right. So I want to pause here for a second and explain something to you before we go into this. So we have to understand the concept of imputed notice when we look at this, because this is a concept that we forget sometimes. So I'm going to go to the definition. AI gave a pretty good definition. The principle of, and what we're talking about is imputed notice right here. This is what we're talking about, okay? The principle of imputed notice in agency law means a principal is legally treated as knowing whatever their agent knows. So I'm going to pause there. Remember, you're an agent. You have a fiduciary duty. Anything you know, your client is presumed to know. That's important, and I'll tell you why in a bit. Now, even if the principal doesn't actually know it, because the agent acts on the principal's behalf and law presumes the agent communicates important information. So this is important for us to understand, right? When imputed notice comes in, that means according to the law, if I as the agent, if I as the broker, but if I as the agent know something, it is presumed under imputed notice that my client also knows that information, even if they don't actually know it. Okay, that goes to the principle that this is something they should have known. Remember, you have a fiduciary duty and they're putting trust in you. Anything you know, your client knows. Okay, so that is why when we look at paragraph 21 in notices, there's a place for buyer information to go and seller information to go. What a lot of agents do is they will just put their information here. So I might put my email. The seller's agent might put, or listing agent might put their email, but we might not put our client's information there. This could get dangerous, right? Because maybe the title company sends out a notice, sends out a demand, and it comes to me, right? And the seller or the buyer, whoever my client is, has 7 days to respond to that. I receive it. I don't see it. It's in my email. Maybe I don't read it, but I have it. Remember, notice is effective when delivered, not when received, but when delivered. So if I don't have it, okay, I mean, if I have it, but I don't tell it, or I read it and I don't forward it, and maybe I'm on vacation, maybe it's the holidays, maybe I've gotten 120 emails that day. A lot of scenarios will happen. So if I don't forward that to my client under imputed notice, it's as though they are aware of it because I am aware of it. They should know. So in law, imputed notice is not about actual knowledge. It's about knowledge you should have had. Because of that, and imagine in that case where an objection was sent, we had 7 days to respond, and I didn't tell my buyer or my seller client, and then they don't respond, and then it costs them thousands of dollars. Where if they would have responded, it wouldn't have cost them that. That's going to put me at liability. So I highly encourage you to put the buyer's information and the seller's information in the contract, right? Because how is the title company going to get a hold of them, right? How are other parties to this contract who have to do things going to get a hold of them? So I always will put their email. Typically that's going to suffice, but at least have their email. If you're going to put their address, it is their current address where they currently live or their mailing address. That's the same for both the buyer and the seller. Don't put the address that they're buying because they're not there. They're not going to get that notice. So where then can they receive mail now? Put their phone number in there. Title company needs to call them. Let the title company call them. Now, why do buyer and seller agents not want to put buyer and seller information here? Because we don't want one party contacting the other party. We don't want the seller contacting the buyer or vice versa, because that's why we are here. Okay, that's what they need to be in communication with us. We need to be that third party negotiator on their behalf. And sometimes it causes issues. But with imputed notice, I don't get to make that decision. My seller gets to make that decision. And one of the decisions I'm going to make is I'm going to tell my client, we need to at least put your email in here. Now, if you want to put your phone number in here, because parties could get a hold of you, you can put that there. And I will tell my buyer, please do not call the seller. Okay, let me do this. Let me be the one that calls the listing agent and talk with them. That's the reason that you're hiring me. Okay. Now, can the seller contact the buyer? Yeah, the parties can talk to each other. It's just the reason they're hiring us is for that third party negotiation, take the emotions out, right? That's why we're being hired. But from a legal standpoint, put at least the emails of your clients in there, right? Also put your email on there so that you can get notifications of these things as well. Okay. So that's what goes there. Some agents, some brokers disagree with this. I've always put the email address of the buyer and the seller in the contract because of the principle of imputed notice. Okay.